Welcome back, everybody. We're getting the day moving along. I'm Aggro, joined by Taco, and we've got a really good matchup here, Taco. It's Luminosity versus Trifecta. Both of these teams tied atop North America in points right now. And
sitting at 10 points makes things incredibly stressed out, I would say, for both of these teams, considering a split here is still not going to leave either team sitting well. One of these two needs to come out with the 2-0.
Yeah, whoever finds the 2-0, I don't think is mathematically guaranteed for Valencia, but it puts themselves in a phenomenal spot to do so. Ready to go here for pick and ban. Game number 1 in that first pick position. Oh no, I'm sorry. We're getting standings. I got a little bit ahead of myself. Take a look at that. 3 teams tied right atop North America: Luminosity, Trifecta, and Space Station. You're gonna see Space Station play a little bit later on today, but when you've got, you know, those 3 wins, those 3 2-0s so far for both Luminosity and Trifecta, both teams trying to find a 4th.
And they really need this 4th, like we've already mentioned. Either side can't really afford the split here, because then that just keeps things entirely too opened up for ALG or even potentially Eunited to dethrone one of these two teams. So nobody in North America is guaranteed Valencia right now.
Yeah, Eunited really controls their own destiny here. If they go 4-0 in the last 2 weeks, they are still in, even though they were pretty far down in those standings for the time being. But first, we got to get through Trifecta and Luminosity. Trifecta banning away Osiris and Nemesis, 2 picks that Luminosity has picked pretty often, though ScaryD usually doesn't get a chance to play that Osiris. Luminosity looking at that Terra for Eonic.
The Nemesis is a really reasonable ban, considering that Trifecta do not want to have to worry if they want to go for the tankier option like we've seen with a couple of Guardians and the Warriors and everything like that. Taking Nemesis off the board makes it so much easier to do so. Leaving open the Fafnir, though, and Morrigan is actually going to be the first pick selection.
Wow,
so
first pick.
NA taking a page out of EU's book, I think.
Yeah, EU has really loved the Morrigan. In fact, I think she's undefeated so far during the summer split. It says right there, 13 for 13. But almost all of those have been in Europe. We'll have to wait and see what Trifecta wants to do with it.
So anytime he can get his hands on it, he does tend to lean towards it. If it does go to the mid lane, though, that wouldn't really surprise you too much either. Morrigan is shown to be a very efficient mid laner, especially considering that when you got a Morrigan, you can have literally anybody else on the team.
That's right. You need the mobility from Susano? Well, you got it. You need a Khepri revive even from the other side? You can have that too. You can really have it all with that mage. But I think you're right. The more that I think about it, Kiki just does love this god and can play so many different roles, has played so many different roles during his time in the SPL, fits his playstyle pretty well. Bellona is the pick for ScaryD, gets all the way down to that 3rd pick selection. And Luminosity then ban out the Odin, a pick that Kiki played twice during the last week.
And should it be and see, they might be anticipating either that the Morrigan isn't going to a solo or taking away those solo lane picks just in case it is headed towards mid lane. But the thing is ScaryD having that Bellona will allow him to play super aggressive, and that's kind of something that he loves being able to do. Combining that with the Susano and now a Kern, there's a lot of aggression built in right now for Luminosity, and the Khepri is really having a lot of potential to shine through now.
Yeah, 2 Hunter bans, but Cernunnos isn't one of them, so BaRRaCCuDDa gets his hands on the Celtic Hunter. Trifecta, there's the Vamana, that's certainly going to Kiki. And then this Apollo that Snoopy has all of a sudden seemed to fall in love with, picked again here for Trifecta.
I think that what Snoopy really prioritizes on the Apollo is the ability to rotate a lot more efficiently. And the other aspect too is that since he'll be alongside of the Fafnir, he should be a little bit safer during that awkward early lane clearing phase. So he should be just fine and maybe even able to go ham with it like we saw him last time he brought it out.
Yeah, he was great on it. I believe that was Thursday this week. He looked phenomenal on it. Scylla going to round it out here for Baskin, Luminosity's mid laner. So plenty of early game aggression between the Susano and the Bellona, and then that Scylla and Cernunnos there in the mid to late game to really carry Luminosity's draft. Getting ready to go into game here between Trifecta and Luminosity.
And the survivability should really be helping out that Scylla. JeffHindla in particular can also choose to play Initiator and look to set up Baskin with that grab from the Khepri.
There's plenty of CC for Baskin to follow up on here. Not only that from JeffHindla, but BaRRaCCuDDa has the root. Mask has some displacement with the knock-up from the Typhoon. And even the Wind Siphon can really work to your advantage. And then, of course, ScaryD with that Eagles Rally. Probably going to be the main initiator for Luminosity.
I mean, really, it's kind of a scary draft from Luminosity. All around, they have a very well-rounded draft, and Trifecta is going to require a little bit more execution, but Cynosure is an incredibly strong jungler, and if somebody can pull out the Najah combination alongside of Hurriwind on the Morrigan, it'll be these two.
I love what Eonic does. He pops the girdle for Cynosure and Hurriwind, lets them push up, and then goes to do his own red buff with Snoopy. That frenzy, a big part of why we see Trifecta find that early clear advantage in the mid lane.
And now Snoopy and Eonic will still be able to pick up enough creeps from that wave to hit level 2 at the same time as Jeff and BaRRaCCuDDa, who are pretty much electing to do the same thing, just clear out their buffs. There's a little bit of aggression now into Baskin, already forced into his Purification Beach, trying to get the slow off on the Cynosure, but I think he's toast here.
He is. First Blood's going Trifecta's way. Cynosure uses the Purification Beads to get out of Baskin's slow. And that is a risky contest from Luminosity. When you go in, when the other team has the clear advantage and they've already started up the speed buff, that's usually what happens. As soon as they realize you're there and you're only level 1 and they've got level 2. They've got 2 skills to hit you with.
Scylla is probably one of the worst guys to try and contest with in that scenario, just because the crush doesn't do enough early on to really deter a Naja at that from trying to secure that speed buff.
So what would you have rather seen, Maskin? Oh my goodness, Cynosure is going to find another one. The Bluestone is going to find it in the mid lane. At a great early start for Trifecta's jungler, and now it's going to be tough for Luminosity to contain this Naja, who we've seen time and time again in this summer split get off to great starts and then really impact the game from there.
This is best case scenario for Cyno. He really just wanted to snowball pretty heavily, and being level 4, Mash trapped down at level 2 now due to that death, him and Baskin won't be able to clear safely in that lane at all.
And that's what you expect normally from a Scylla, but Susano can usually be there to help out in that regards, but with both of them taking early deaths, I think you're right, that makes it even harder. Good news for Luminosity is that ScaryD does have control in that right-hand side. He's the one who's going to pick up the fire elementals on that first time through, but still, I mean, that mid-jungle combination from Luminosity certainly very far behind.
Just knowing that Cyno and Hurriwind also have the timers on that speed buff means that Trifecta will probably be looking to invade that buff whenever possible, just exert as much pressure as they can because they can afford to. And you asked me what I would have preferred to see them do there. I think they would have had a better chance just looking to fast clear the wave and going towards their left-hand back heart beast.
BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla, they've got the pressure on this left-hand side. So Luminosity, with their lacking in mid lane pressure, they have in the other 2 lanes, and that's a good sign for the time being. But see Cynosure lurking on this left-hand side, trying to get the pressure that he's earned in the mid and transition it onto the left-hand side. Cynosure is level 5. BaRRaCCuDDa has the Purification Beads, but JeffHindla is the call. There's the sash right into the Naja ultimate. Jeff does hit level 5 when in the sky, so he's going to be able to get that Scared's Blessing off, but immediately upon respawn, even with BaRRaCCuDDa's Wild Hunt, JeffHindla certain to fall here. Snoopy's going to get himself on the board, but again, it's from the assist from Cynosure.
And really, it's just the fact that look at the gods that are picking up these last hits. You got Cyno on the Najal with 2, and then Snoopy getting 1 on Apollo. These are all massive kill bounties for these guys early on because they're not gods that you anticipate to get ahead.
Mask still only level 4, and his speed buff is respawn and goes to the back heart piece to try and make sure that he can hit level 5 in case of an invade, but looks like Trifecta is happy to allow Susano to get his own speed in this scenario.
I'm kind of anticipating Trifecta, if they keep getting picks like this, to look for that early Gold Fury aggression, just because with the Morrigan ultimate available, Hurriwind could easily secure it, turning into Baskin.
Now another sash onto JeffHindla. Cynosure playing aggressive as you would expect with the kind of lead that he's earned for himself. BaRRaCCuDDa does manage to secure his own red buff, but Mask's gonna show up on that right-hand side and kill Kiki. That's Luminosity on the board, and there's that pressure that ScaryD has earned coming up big and allowing Mask to get back on the board.
We just saw ScaryD actually force Kiki underneath his tower in the Vamana ultimate, so I think that just came up so huge, really allowing Mask to pretty much bring himself back into this, picking up that kill.
And Mask is still on that right-hand side, continuing to try and leech some of that farm away from Scary, especially when Scary has no mana, could use a little bit of assistance clearing. Vamana doesn't have the teleport available, but with that quick movement speed and, of course, the very long dash, going to be able to get back to wave without missing too much experience on that right side.
Having the Khepri can kind of make things a little bit more difficult for Jeff, just because with a Naja, Cyno can easily ult him out of every team fight scenario, early on at least, and that might be what he's looking towards. He might be looking to focus out Jeff because he opted for that shell, and he might not necessarily be able to pop that before he goes up to the air.
I mean, we see the strategy against Khepri has kind of always been CC him as you're killing one of his teammates so that he can't get that revive off, and I don't think there's any CC that lasts quite as long long as a Naja ultimate, that's a great way to take him out of that fight and make sure that Trifecta can just do whatever they want on the ground.
Snoopy also has the Mesmerize whenever the team fights start breaking out a little bit more, and Kiki even has a knock-up. Even though he's fallen behind in this lane, he can still be very useful in team fight scenarios.
And look at the net worth. It's Cynosure and Hurriwind right on top. Not often that you get to see a mid laner and jungler on top this early on, but with how good their start was, not too surprising, I suppose. And look at the boots choices they've gone for. Some Travelers and Talaria boots, trying to keep that gold worth up at the expense of sacrificing some power. Well,
they get to freely poke, and I think with freely poking abilities, taking the small hit to power early on is kind of worth it.
Mask again on this right-hand side. This time, Kiki a little bit too wary for the gang to go through, so Mask instead just kind of attacks the lane and set up for these fire elementals that Luminosity have done a good job of controlling thus far. One of the big reasons why Mask is still relevant in this one, despite Cynosure's early good start. Securing
that kill onto Kiki really just permitted Luminosity to continue having that pressure onto the fire elementals, and if Lumi keep getting those uncontested, it's going to make it very easy for them to stay relevant as far as the gold is concerned early on.
And a talking point we use a lot is which team's roster translates better to the late game as Kiki gets ulted in that solo lane, but he still has his. Scary doesn't have a whole lot of kill potential in that scenario, but we ask that all the time, but I think that question becomes so difficult whenever there's a Morrigan on one team, because whatever late game the other team has, you have as well, and you can also double down on your great late game gods.
But you only get one choice selection and one chance to make it work, so Hurriwind has to be on point. And while Morrigan opens up so many different avenues as far as diversity for your team and turning into whatever they might need, if you don't execute it properly, it's kind of the same as any other god.
Another red buff invade attempted by Trifecta. Scary D even showing up. He used the teleport to get here. No ultimate for him. Remember, he used it on that right side. It's going to allow Kiki to catch up on that solo lane because he has a teleport available, but Trifecta let him know that nothing's really going on until Hurriwind gets pulled in that middle lane and rooted. There's the crush, the transformation as well, and Hurriwind's going to get gobbled up by Baskin. Eonic's going to have to jump away. A quick kill in the middle lane for Luminosity. Cost him a couple ultimates, but again, absolutely worth it in that scenario to get Baskin a little bit of extra gold.
It looked like Hurriwind was trying to transform into the Khepri there to try and get a res off on himself, just unable to make it happen fast enough. Excellent CC chain by Luminosity.
And no purification beads for Hurriwind, has the Aegis instead, and Aegis is good whenever you're trying to anticipate an I'm a Monster or a crush, but kind of need the purification beads if you're going to get rooted and abducted by JeffHindla like he did in that scenario. Cynosure and Eonic combined to secure those left side mid harpies, but Luminosity have done a good job of fighting back. 2 unanswered kills after Trifecta started it off with 3 in the early game. Trifecta still has the lead though, about 1,500 gold, and that's a pretty solid margin at the 8.5 minute mark.
It's a solid margin, but it's not one that Luminosity can't catch up to. All they really need is one team fight to go awry for Trifecta, and they could very easily find themselves back on top. It's really just going to boil down to if they look for the continuous pick playstyle or the team fighting scenario. And you mentioned it earlier, who do we think is going to translate better into the late game? I would say that Trifecta probably has a more pick-oriented composition just because that's basically what you look for anytime you opt for that Naja.
Well, I'm looking at this gold number, and Trifecta's up a little bit more than I thought they would be, and my thought process is that this gold lead probably a little bit inflated from the 2 Talaria shoes that the mid and jungle for Trifecta have. A gold lead whenever you have the normal penetration boots or cooldown boots or whatever you want to go for is a little bit more impactful than a gold lead like this because it's kind of fudged, you know what I mean? You're not getting that same benefit because you already gave up some power to get the gold that you're getting.
And Scary D's also just invading Kiki now in this solo lane side. That's pretty rough for Kiki as a Vamana. He's not even level 12. I mean, Scary D is going to have the second relic available now. Kiki is still sitting at level 10. It'll be a little bit, and with the Gold Fury starting to hit that stage where the dancing for it might come out, but well, I thought it could be Scary D just looking to go all in onto Kiki. Really nowhere left to turn.
Wow, Scary very patient with that ultimate. Resets the tower aggro so he doesn't take quite as much damage, and now going to use his ult to force the hand of KikiSoCheeky. Kiki does have that teleport, so he's going to be able to get back to base, but I think that's a win for Luminosity considering how much pressure Mask has been putting on that right-hand side in comparison to that of have Cynosure, who's been a little bit more focused on the left side buffs.
Cyno's also been farming a lot more ever since he helped Snoopy secure that kill onto Jeff. He's really just trying to proc his Talaria boots as often as possible alongside of Hurriwind, and it goes back to that point you just made about the damage not being as relevant.
Susano now again invading on this left side. Matt's gonna teleport forward, try and find the pluck onto Snoopy, but that's 2 relics used by Snoopy. Look at where Baskin is around the backside of this team fight. There's the root onto Snoopy, but Cynosure meets him with the Windfire Wheels. Kiki gonna find Scary in a solo kill on the right-hand side. Great revive from JeffHindla to save the life of Baskin, and Mask still wants to keep this going, but is in the middle of the entirety of Trifecta, still somehow alive. He looks like he's gonna be able to get out until Eonic's gonna find him with the leap. Hurriwind back in that Morrigan form, and Snoopy looking to clean up Baskin. It's gonna find it. There it is. The kill on the Baskin comes courtesy of Hurriwind's Dark Omen, but it was Snoopy that cleaned him up.
Everybody is so incredibly low on the side of Trifecta, but just not enough damage to close that final gap for Luminosity. Teamfight just went a little bit too awkwardly. They took too much ability damage, and removing Baskin from that fight was just so crucial by Cyno.
That was a huge play, though, by Kiki on the right-hand side, because Kiki had to use his teleport to get back into lane. Scary still had his, and if Scary teleports to that teamfight on left, Trifecta probably get wiped. I mean, Scary is huge right now. Instead of that happening, Kiki finds the solo kill and allows Trifecta to take the 4-on-4.
I'm kind of surprised that Kiki was able to find that solo kill onto Scary D. I'm thinking that he must have been trying to dive that tower a little bit too long yet again, and this time Kiki just had the damage to respond to it.
Wow, big plays there out of Trifecta's solo laner. Trifecta up 6-2 now in kills, up about 4,000 gold as well. So pretty sizable margin now for Trifecta, and we talked about Luminosity having the better team fight late game, but pick compositions one ahead are very difficult to deal with.
Not to mention that Kiki also opted for the Bracer. Meanwhile, Scary D's got that Thorn, so it's going to be interesting to see how these two solo laners choose to aggress into either side's backline.
Both have that potential for sure. I mean, Bellona, one of the best at just ulting on top of a hunter and saying, what are you going to do about it? But Kiki very slippery on that Vamana, though Vamana for me really excels right around now, right around this 12 to 17 minute mark, and then starts to become a little bit harder to play in the team fights, because even with that ultimate giving you a lot of protection and CC immunity, a lot of teams in the late game can just burst you down through that big baby form.
And speaking of burst, it's looking like Trifecta wants to try and burst down this Gold Fury, but only after they potentially find a pick. Just gonna fall back, recognizing that the members of Luminosity are very much aware that they're looking for that gold.
Baskin needs to be hitting level 12 pretty soon here, needs that second relic as soon as possible. Mask has hit level 12, but has not backed to base for that second option. Kiki shows his head on the right-hand side on Luminosity's speed buff, trying to steal it away, but will not do so successfully. Mask is able to secure it away, but this means Trifecta knows that there's a couple members on that right-hand side. We've seen a lot more of this Taco, this Gold Fury in the pit, trying to keep it away from the eyes of Luminosity. Baskin may have spotted it out with his positioning, but Kiki is on the way. Cyno already poked out. Typhoon gonna knock up a couple, but no real impact there. Cyno gonna find an ultimate right off the bat, and it's Mask who's up in the sky with him, but no follow-up once he lands. Baskin's being chased down by Kiki, having a tough time staying relevant in this team fight, but BaRRa and Mask have done a good job doing the same to Cyno.
And it's just Scary D, though, in the backside, trying to run down Snoopy. The Aegis is going to be good, though, and prevent the bludgeon damage from coming through, and now Scary D is about to get trapped between 3 members of Trifecta.
Scary gets baited. Mask looking for it, is gonna find Snoopy with the wind siphon. Cynosure with a great ring bounce, but he's gonna fall to the hand of BaRRaCCuDDa. Mask again somehow escapes with 1 HP, and now it's an advantage for Luminosity. BaRRaCCuDDa trying to bet his best to box, and JeffHindla very low alongside Baskin. Jeff trying to find that escape, but will not. Kiki finds him. Baskin put some good damage onto Kiki, and with Mask buying teleport and coming back into this team fight, he's gonna be able to find that kill into Hurriwind.
Not a relic that we're accustomed to seeing on a Susano, but it has the same impact just because of the positioning for that team fight. And now because of Mask TPing back, Eonic doesn't really have a whole lot of mana. I'm not sure you can really test them.
But Kiki is here, and here he comes. Scary's teleporting in as well. Now it could be Luminosity again trying to re-engage. Wind Siphon onto Kiki, into the root, into the crush. Baskin crushes him down for kill number 2, and Luminosity even that score a little bit more. 8-6 now until Snoopy comes in with Across the Sky and finds that cheeky kill that Apollo does so well.
I think that Baskin just used his getaway a little bit too soon there. Probably didn't expect. He started backing, and you saw him start highlighting underneath that T1 tower, but you could see Snoopy flying all the way across the map, just looking to pick up that kill, and it's worth it.
One of those things that whenever your Apollo is in meta and everyone's playing him, you're always paranoid. You know, where's the Apollo? Is he ulting me right now? But whenever you don't really play against Apollo that much, you don't really think about backing and opening up that item store when you think you're safe.
And I mean, I can't really blame Baskin, considering that was such a great counter engage by Luminosity, the way they were able to keep that fight so extended to turn in their favor. But losing Baskin when they did, it means that they can't secure the Gold Fury, but not only that, the gold lead is still very much in favor of Trifecta.
It'll dip down a little bit, and the big dip is inexperience. Luminosity get a lot back in that XP department during that last team fight, and at the 15-minute mark, a 3,700 gold lead is absolutely significant, but lowering that experience gap probably better than lowering a gold gap in that scenario. Hurriwind gets plucked right out of stealth, and he's going to transform into Kiki to give himself that CC immunity and protection. Mask gets stunned by Eonic and taken up by Cynosure. Crush waiting for him on the backside, but Mask going to receive the ultimate from JeffHindla and be able to escape because of it.
One of those moments where Hurriwind probably wished that he could have turned into Scylla right there, but unfortunately unable to do so. Had to go for the survivability route first, and again, a great res or a great ultimate drop by JeffHindla.
He's been really on point so far. He's sitting at 0-2-2, but a couple clutch revives and just ultimates in general. Even if they don't get revives, they do get his teammates out of danger enough. Though he's still sitting at level 11, whereas Eonic has hit level 12, got that second relic, and it looks like a shell that may already be upgraded even. So big damage mitigation going to be coming out of Trifecta support.
And I like the prioritization by Jeff to look for the shell initially, because he could have played it a little bit more greedy, potentially looked for a bracer even, because some supports have been favoring that as of late. But now Luminosity just need to try and stay wary, because this Gold Fury is still on the table.
And they're all grouped around it. Trifecta, again, have the gold lead, but it's pretty even in terms of experience. In fact, Mask now has a level lead on Cynosure, I believe. Cyno sitting at level 14, whereas Mask at 15. Scary D has a level lead of his own, but that level lead is returned on the side of Trifecta. Mid, support, and Hunter all with a level lead over their Luminosity counterparts. These Oracles, very important whenever the Gold Fury dance is going on. And they're going both Trifecta's way. Hurriwind in the backside immediately focused down, but he's going to be able to transform. JeffHindla's knocked up and can't even get the ultimate off. Didn't have it anyways. Typhoon is good there from Mats, but not good enough. Snoopy's going to get up and escape into the chariot, while Scary D is handled by the rest of Trifecta. Baskin going to get knocked down by Snoopy. That's a trifecta for Trifecta. BaRRaCCuDDa's going to make it 4 most likely, and that's going to be only Mask alive. Trifecta looking very strong up against Luminosity. 13 kills on the board.
That was a beautiful engagement by Trifecta as well. Luminosity just a little bit too grouped there, and Jeff and Baskin both unable to get their ultimates off because Jeff just got CC'd.
Jeff didn't even have it available, but you're right, it wouldn't have mattered if he did, because he was CC'd so well. The team play has been very impressive from this squad. I mean, we saw them have a couple struggles towards the beginning of this split with the new addition of Kiki in that solo lane replacing Walrus, but this group of veterans certainly looking pretty strong here and trying to punch their ticket to Valencia.
And you would imagine that that would probably go in favor of Luminosity as well, just because you've got the Susano, you have the Scylla crush damage to come through for you. It was just so unfortunate for all Luminosity to kind of get chokeholded by Trifecta there.
So I was talking to some players about this Apollo that Snoopy played on Thursday, and they were saying that, yeah, I mean, it's good when you get ahead, just as you said to me during that cast, but a lot of what made Snoopy successful was Kiki's invade on that right-hand side, pulling the little ones off of the enemy buffs to make sure that Trifecta would have the level advantage going into that lane. That didn't happen this time around, Taco. And still, Snoopy, despite being pushed under tower for the first 5 levels or so, has looked really, really strong. Is Apollo just a pick that people are going to realize has been a little underrated?
Snoopy kind of just got away with murder early on. He picked up 2 kills with his ultimate on Baskin. And Baskin, even though his mid laner, hold that thought, it's Kiki looking to go in and start things off for Trifecta again.
BaRRa in trouble, going to get sashed and ulted. No relics for Luminosity's Hunter. Jeff can't quite find the ultimate because Snoopy blows him up before he hit the ground. Kiki now on the retreat, going to miss out that crush from Baskin. ScaryD is there. Hurriwind actually immunes the Wind Siphon with the Changeling ultimate, well timed, out of Trifecta's mid laner, and now his job is to create that zone and keep Luminosity off of this Fire Giant. Frenzy pops. Snoopy, level 18, is just shredding through it with Cyno and Kiki. Fire Giant goes down at 20 minutes in favor of Trifecta.
And they're going to drop this, no problem at all. Hurriwind changing back to the Morrigan. He's got the Fire Giant. Jeff can't solo him.
Kiki's going to find Baskin. Mask on the run, get a jet stream away from Cynosure. He gets away once more, has been getting away with murder quite a bit, but now it's Jeff locked underneath this tier 1 tower. He's going to fall here. It's going to be another kill for Trifecta. It's going to be number 16, and Snoopy's 6th in total.
But look at the player damage from Snoopy, and this is kind of what I was talking about. He kind of just got away with so much early on that he really should have been getting punished for it. Just Luminosity unable to clean it up.
And tier 2 tower falls for Trifecta. Another 1,500 gold in their pocket. That gold lead has fallen off the cliff. Now 12,000 gold in the lead. And that XP difference that Luminosity had brought back to be pretty close no longer. 10,000 between the two.
I think another golden ticket for Trifecta here as well is just the fact that the actives have always been getting burned before Cyno looks to engage, and because of that, Cyno's had a really easy time on this Najah, just looking for the Sash ult immediately.
I mean, this is the entire gameplay, and like you said, you couldn't write it any better for Trifecta. Cynosure gets an early 2 kills, transitions it over, Snoopy gets a kill in the duo lane, and then ever since, it's just been Trifecta fighting on that left side of the map. Kiki was the one who was behind, and how many fights has Trifecta taken on the right side of the map until that Fire Giant? 0. They didn't want to take any over there. Allow your team to excel where they are ahead, and Trifecta has really done that pretty well during the summer split.
Well, Cynosure also didn't have to worry about the right-hand side because Kiki soloed ScaryD when he had like a 1.5, 2 level experience gap, and for him to find that solo kill, I think just came up so huge for Trifecta because it just permitted them to maintain that consistent pressure onto the dual lane side. And BaRRaCCuDDa might be BaRRaCCuDDa, but it's hard for a Kern to stay alive as long as possible when pretty much 3 or 4 members every single time have been getting so low that Jeff is having to decide who's going to be ulted.
Luminosity trying to push forward, knowing that Kiki's on the right, but all of a sudden Mask gets turned on and Hurriwind blows him up with the help of Eonic. Jeff gets stunned out by the jump from Eonic, and Snoopy is going to assist Kiki. BaRRaCCuDDa is the target. Aegis is good. Nice ultimate coming out of Baskin. Was waiting for Snoopy on the ground, but just not enough to find the kill. Hurriwind trying to do the same, but misses his I'm a Monster. It immediately transforms back. Cynosure with a beautiful blink ultimate onto Baskin. He's going to fall. Number 7 for Snoopy. 19 in total for Trifecta. The tier 2 tower certain to fall, as will BaRRaCCuDDa, as Cynosure claims number 20. Trifecta marching on, trying to find their way to Valencia, and Luminosity says, no mas, we've had enough. 23 minutes, Trifecta claim game 1.
That was an incredibly clean game by Trifecta. They took advantage of the lead that they were given, and they completely punished Luminosity just for those slight missteps early on. I
agree with you. I mean, I really think that you can almost trace this entire game back. Even you can kind of ignore those first 2 kills for Cynosure, the one for Snoopy in that duo lane. Luminosity, I think, if ScaryD can teleport into that fight on the red buff, that could be completely different. But in the end, Kiki makes the play, and Trifecta make it happen the rest of the way. Snoopy, in particular, on this Apollo, he's 3-0. Taco, what can you say about it?
He had the dream game as Apollo. Just gets to fly in, everybody's 1 HP, and he gets to claim every single victory kill. I mean, he wasn't top of the player damage charts for his team, but he was there when they needed him to be, and all that really matters is a couple of in-hands. A kill's a kill. I
mean, this is what Apollo does best. He cleans up kills out of nowhere. He escapes with 1 HP all the time, and he can split push better than just about any god in the game. So you know that, I mean, even if he isn't top of the player damage charts, Snoopy's doing what Apollo does.
And that's all that he really needed to do, was just follow up with the rest of his team. He could rely on Cyno, Hurriwind, even Eonic was doing a decent bit of damage to these guys, and This was just classic Snoopy game, classic Apollo gameplay.
And you know, if someone's going to be able to play a classic Apollo game, it's Snoopy. I mean, that TSM Apollo skin made whenever Snoopy, what's the difference at this point, was a part of TSM. Ready to go.